The rain was falling in steady sheets the night Oliver left. I remember the sound more than his voice. The way the drops drummed against the window panes as if echoing my own disbelief. He stood in the doorway of our tiny terraced home, the suitcase by his side, a stark contrast to the photos still hanging on the wall behind him. "I can't do this, Isla." My hands rested gently on my belly, barely showing yet, but enough to know. Enough to feel the quiet flutter of a life growing inside me. His child. Our child. "You can't do what?" I asked, even though I already knew. My voice cracked anyway. He didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on the floor. "Be a father. A husband. Any of it." For a moment, I didn't speak. I just stared at him, at the man I had known since sixth form. We had shared dreams of traveling the world, building a life filled with laughter and books and breakfasts in bed. We had spoken about names for future children during walks along the Brighton Pier. How could all that be undone with one sentence? "You don't have to be perfect, Ollie," I whispered. "You just have to stay." He flinched. The silence between us was thick, unbearable. "I wish I were stronger," he said finally, picking up his suitcase. Then he walked out. Just like that. Leaving behind more than just me. He left behind a heartbeat he never heard, a name he would never help choose, and a love that deserved better. In the days that followed, I existed in fragments. The kettle boiled, but I didn't make tea. The sun rose, but I never opened the curtains. My mother came by, letting herself in with the spare key, tidying around my silence. She never said, "I told you so," though her eyes often did. "You're stronger than this," she said one morning, placing a bowl of porridge in front of me. I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow. But then, one evening as I sat on the sofa with a blanket draped around me, I felt the first real kick. Not just a flutter, but a solid nudge from within. It was as if the baby was reminding me I wasn't alone. That I had someone who needed me, someone who hadn't walked away. So I got up. I opened the curtains. I cleaned. I started walking through the park again, hands in the pockets of my coat, scarf wrapped tight around my neck. I began reading aloud from the novels I used to love, as if the baby might appreciate Austen as much as I did. Months passed. The bump grew. And so did my strength. The day my daughter was born, I held her close and whispered, "You are worth every tear." I named her Elodie. It was a name I had once mentioned to Oliver during a lazy Sunday morning. He had said it sounded like a song. I didn't name her to remember him, but because it felt right. She was music in a world that had gone quiet. The first few weeks were a blur of nappies, bottles, and late-night rocking. My mum moved in for a while, helping where she could, giving me moments of sleep and sanity. And slowly, Elodie and I built a rhythm. Still, there were moments when grief caught me off guard. A pair of shoes left by the door. An old jumper of his I found in the laundry basket. The ache of knowing he would never see her first smile, never hear her laugh. Then, when Elodie was nearly 5 months old, I ran into Oliver at the supermarket. I was in the baby aisle, scanning the shelves for wipes, when I heard a voice behind me. "Isla." I turned. He looked older, more tired. There was stubble on his chin and guilt in his eyes. "Hello, Ollie." His gaze dropped to Elodie, snug in her pram. Her eyes were wide, curious, her tiny hands clenching the edge of her blanket. "She's beautiful," he said. "She is." He hesitated. I wanted to reach out. I just didn't know how. You walked out on us, I said, my voice steady but low. There's no easy way back from that. He nodded. I know. And I'm sorry. I didn't forgive him. Not in that moment. Maybe not ever. But I didn't hate him either. I just pitied him. Because he had missed it all. The first giggle, the way her fingers wrapped around mine, the softness of her breath as she slept. Goodbye, Oliver, I said. And I meant it. A year later, I was working part-time at the local library, balancing Elodie on my hip as I organized the children's section. That was when I met Daniel. He was the new history teacher at the secondary school, a bit awkward, always carrying a battered satchel and a thermos of tea. He had a warm smile and the kind of eyes that made you feel safe. Need a hand with those? He asked one morning, gesturing to a towering stack of books. Only if you're not afraid of glitter and rhyming animals, I replied. He laughed. And so began a new chapter. Daniel didn't swoop in like some hero. He showed up. He listened. He made Elodie laugh with silly voices and read her bedtime stories with a kind of care most people reserved for sacred texts. We took things slowly. I told him everything. He didn't flinch. Didn't judge. He just said, "She's lucky to have you. And if you'll let me, I'd like to be someone who shows up for both of you." By the time Elodie turned 3, she called him Dan Dan. And I realized I hadn't just survived heartbreak. I had found something better. A love that didn't vanish in the rain. A man who stayed. Sometimes I still think of Oliver. I wonder if he ever regrets it. If he ever walks through the park and wonders what might have been. But I don't dwell on it. Because the life he walked away from became the life I grew into. Full of bedtime stories and laughter, muddy wellies and Sunday pancakes. A life built on strength I never knew I had. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of love, loss, and finding joy on the other side of heartbreak.